I suppose our opening question, Daria, is talk to us about the family business and the makeup of Illy.
Well, it's a very interesting story, I hope. If you all have a pillow, as I was saying, you can be comfortable. It's a long story because we're almost 100 years old. Everything started from my grandfather. He was an Austro-Hungarian soldier, and he came to Trieste because he left his original country because of the battles, and they were changing from Transylvania to Hungary, I believe, or Romania. And he came to Trieste, and he started with chocolate, tea, and coffee. And then he fell in love with coffee, actually. There is a port in Trieste, and I say that a big percentage of the whole coffee that comes through Italy and then is roasted and packaged comes from Trieste. And it is one of the major ports. So probably that is why he stopped. And that's where he met his wife. And this started in 1935, where actually he patented one of the first espresso making machines, which is called Illetta. So his secret was to make coffee without burning it, because he found a way not to burn the coffee because of very hot water, and to make a little bit of cream. So he understood that he needed to separate the bars, so the pressure, from how much hot the boiler was. And that was the beginning of espresso coffee, actually. It's a family of innovators, and he started right away.
Okay, thank you. And thinking about the story, obviously, so it was from founding, sort of the family members. How many family members have sort of worked or are working within the business at the moment?
So a big part of the history is my grandfather, so the son of Francesco Illy, who is Ernesto Illy. And then I'll tell you another thing, because we're going to talk maybe about tradition. I'll tell you one thing about the way we name people. So Francesco had Ernesto. Ernesto is my grandfather, and he came to know my grandfather because my grandmother, excuse me, because they were both skiing, because my family is very passionate about skiing, and they compete and all the rest. Very good at skiing. And I think she was there with her mother, and she didn't know how to get back to Trieste. And she asked, well, how do I do, Mom? How do I go? And she said, well, maybe someone will get you, but you need to leave your luggage with someone. And so Ernesto came over and she said, well, I'm going to leave the luggage, but take the girl. And that was the beginning of something very important, because actually they had a big partnership, and she studied as an administrative. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah.
Right. So she was very careful about accounting. She was very, very careful, and she was a good help to him. My father, I think he inspired the knowledge, the thought leadership that we have inherited, and I'm really trying to bring on with the company as well as the company itself, because he was a scientist, one of the most interesting coffee experts in the world. And he managed to make everything very simple, actually. So he traveled all the world talking about coffee, and he introduced espresso in the United States, which was not so easy. And in that moment, also my father, Riccardo, during the 80s, he joined the family. And that was the moment when they did the first very bold choice. Instead of having many different blends or roasts, therefore pricey, cheers, they said, we want to do one blend, and it must be the best blend in the world to be delivered to all the world. So that's where another major innovation came in, which is pressurization. It means that we take off oxygen from our cans or from our pods, from any packaging that we have. It's compulsory, there's a word for us, to pressurize everything, because it not only preserves the product, but it makes it better. It's like, when you put a wine in the barrique, it's the same thing, because the oils and the aromatics of the coffee. They get even better when they're in the cans and they store. So that's when we really started expanding in export, and the logo was different. And that's when we happened to get in 140 countries. Actually, we're one of the most international companies, and it's very well spread. Have I answered your questions, or did I get lost somehow?
No, it's really, it's always really interesting. It's the storytelling and understanding. So and obviously we're talking about the family and the makeup and the family members.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
right.
but you nicely have gone about the brand into the brand across the globe, because it was, how did that start? I think is always, you know.
Yes, yeah, and that's the beginning. And everyone was so in love with grandfather. I left at 18 from Trieste. I took a totally different career, so I haven't lived him very much, and he was very traditional. So he gave the hand to all us cousins. No kissing, no. But he was very formal, apparently. And he was talking to me about these strange things, which I couldn't absolutely understand, because he studied entropy and chaos, and I was trying to understand, but I couldn't get this at 7 years old. I mean, and that's what I talk about in my LinkedIn article about the red door, that then suddenly you connect all the dots. And actually, he was explaining the Maillard reaction, which, studying also chemistry later, I really understood. But he had this way of, so fascinating to make everything simple, which is when we say that if you really know something, you can make it very easy to explain, and therefore to be learned. And he was a kind of a philosopher and a scientist together. And he had such a charisma, and everyone remembers him, because I did have a moment when I had a very global job, as now, but I traveled much, much more, of course. And there's not once when I was like excited and like moved by seeing the name everywhere. One of my first travels, I went to, where was it, Indonesia, and I saw these cans all over, and I said, wow, this is awesome. And everyone remembers him. And fortunately, they say I have something about him, which makes me very honored and very happy. But I think it's very difficult. So after him, we have 4 brothers. There's Anna Illy, who takes care as an ambassador with the coffee growers, and she's our ambassador. She's an expert for green coffee, and she's our figure in the producing countries. Lots of Brazil and all the rest. All the coffee grows in subtropical areas mostly. So Guatemala, Ethiopia, etc. And then we have Ricardo Illy, who used to be my father. He used to be my father here. He made this big shift in Illycaffè. The export and the marketing is what he brought in. And when he was there in the 77th, and there I spoiled the 3rd innovation, because there are 7 major ones in the world of coffee, and not everyone knows that 3 are made in Illy. And the 3rd one is portion coffee, single dose.
Okay.
So he started selling single dose, because coffee has more than 140 variables, more or less. The hand of the barista, and now I'm gonna get lost, guys. Get ready. I'm going to one thing to another. The pressure, the atmosphere. Where are you? Is it humid? Are you in the mountains? Everything changes. So if you do it by hand, you can have major changes. Perfect espresso is made with 77 grams. And in those 7 grams, we have 50 beans. If one of those 50 beans is spoiled, it will spoil all the coffee. And that's why the first screening selection that we have is with spectral photometry. And there's this big machine who separates, looking at the color of the beans, immediately takes away the defects. But there are many other processes before that, before we get the coffee, to have it perfect. And that's another thing that we have always had, which is, ethics and very strong sense of scientificity. and
Mm-hmm.
the best machines and the best experience. And okay, so this was another innovation
Mm-hmm.
who actually changed the consumers, because you had these 7 grams in single dose. It wasn't paper. Not
Sure.
everyone reminds this. They say, oh, there were capsules in paper. Yeah, actually, they were the first ones. It was the 70s, I believe, 73. So that's where we industrialized this for first. So we had the patent for 10 years, and then it was for everyone. And actually, it did expand a lot. And the first segment where we were offering this was, small offices and all the rest. And from there, we could go to the States. Can you imagine talking about espresso in the States? My father could do it. My grandfather could do it. And they were very successful also because it was very practical. So I was on Ricardo, my father. So he made these two major changes. And I remember I went with him and I was skating in Illycaffè.
Mm-hmm.
We were maybe 50 employees, not more. And I was skating there and I had a lot of fun. And I liked to stay in the office. And I still found some of the people that there were that time, only that now we're 1,800 past.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a big change, and there's not that blue, linoleum floor where it was so good to skate on, because it made no noise, and it was so soft and perfect, and I loved it. And everything was red, and then they of course they made up everything. Everything has been renewed, of course. Everything looks like your doors. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
black and wood, very clear wood, light wood. And then we have Andrea Illy, who is president of Illycaffè.
Mm-hmm.
He's been CEO and president for a long time, because my dad went to politics for quite a long time. And he thought he could manage both things. Then he realized that he had to go full immersion on politics if he wanted to change something. And that's where, when he came back in, they agreed to have some diversifications, but I will get into that later so I don't lose myself. Then we have Francesco Illy. Francesco Illy is the oldest of the family. He's very extrovert, and he's the artist of the family. We worked with
Yes.
almost 100 artists, from Pistoletto, Marina Abramovic, Penelope Cruz. We did a wonderful project with Alanis Morissette, where I was into the there was a women ambassadorship, actually very strong foundation to help and to make people understand how much the gender gap is important in our whole food supply chain, which is something that we need to work on, and we are with the foundation, definitely. And I said 4 people? Yeah, the Blitz, I said,
Yes.
Yeah.
Ricardo, Francesco, and Andrea. Yes. So
Yes.
my father used to say, what are we going to do if at some point research tells us that coffee gives you flat feet? Flat feet. Well, you never know. So that's why we started diversifying. And that is
Okay.
when we started with the Polo del Gusto, which is kind of the center of taste. And my father is now the president of the Center of Taste. So trying to make it easier, we have 2 major companies. One is Illycaffè, one is Polo del Gusto. And Polo del Gusto has different companies which we own or have the majority of stakes for, almost more of them. And they have the kind of same Illy philosophy. So they have a direct relationship with the growers. They know exactly what has been bought. They have the same process of quality controls and the same premiumness in mind, which they are being more flexible actually now, because they are diversifying into chocolate, and they work with patisserie. There's many different. We used to work with pasta, and we didn't do this anymore. But we have, everything that stays in the gourmand.
Okay.
And this, so the structure is that there's the family, the family holding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is called the Grupo Illy, and then it divides into these 2 companies, one of which has many other different companies below it. I think my grandfather had a good idea. Also because we are 9 cousins and we're all women except one who's not there anymore, actually. So this is part of the story.
Daria, can I take
Very
you back to
interesting.
your grandfather for a moment? Just when you talk about your grandfather, his original thoughts and ideas, is that written down? Is that something that is there as part of a tradition that's written down?
Unfortunately not. In fact, I was talking about this to my grandfather, to my grandma, who's still in life. And I was telling her, you know, if we don't have, we have very little. If you Google him, there's a few like major things. One of them is the law of attraction, which I think is just stunning way of thinking. I don't know if you've seen it, but do Google him. It's called the law of attraction. And he explains in his wonderful way, and he laughs on his own because he knows where he gets to. I did nobody does jokes in my family. Like I like to put nuts in people's shoes. I adore that. And I laugh so much, and I can't resist to laugh when I think about how they will feel. And my parents used not to be very, humorous. So I did it. Once I did the whole stock of shoes to my dad. I put peanuts in there so they would really crack. And I was so happy about this. He was not the same. But I heard that my grandfather did the same. So he was very, you will see him. He's a very happy person. And he's very, of course, scientific in the way of explaining, but he's he's a philosopher. He really gets to very important concepts. I really like that video, The Law of Attraction. I think I published it on the internet because there's an article on him. So going back to your question, Dave, unfortunately, there's loads of books from Andrea, from Ricardo and Francesco. I got them here. But there is not something on Ernesto. And someone did offer at one point to do this. And I think that it should be done until my grandmother is there. Well, she has most of the story. And some are so funny. Some are so funny. I did offer her to record her and have her talk freely. At least we have something where to start from. I will consider it again, Dave. Thanks for reminding me.
I think that
Daria.
Sorry, Alfredo. Go.
Daria, okay, thanks. As one of your titles explicitly say, it seems that you work really very much on something like culture, right, within your group. And with culture, as we know, is something which is sometimes symbolic, has a symbolic nature. And it's something that is very powerful because it's really what shapes then the behaviors of individuals, group of people, organizations, and the territories where these organizations work. So it also has to do a lot with identity and the things like this. So my question is, first of all, do you see yourself in this important role working on something intangible that, sometimes we don't really connect immediately with business things, but which is, in my view, and also as my study actually show, very, very important, also for business purposes, although it's mainly, about non-economic purposes. Firstly, do you see yourself in that role? And second, how do you see the past, the present, and the future, in relation to yourself? So when you work on these symbolic things, on creating this culture, on perpetuating this, the university that I've seen you have in your company, do you feel yourself like a custodian of the past? Do you feel yourself more like a sort of innovator? Do you see yourself more like a bridge? How do you see yourself over time, if in considering these temporal aspects?
Can you break his microphone? This is such a difficult question, Alfredo. Yeah, God, what did you do tonight? Nobody asked me this question. Of course,
I cannot tell you what I smoke. Sorry.
Okay, that's good. Well, it must work very well, man.
Must be strong, yes.
No, it's a great question. I don't know if I'll find a word for this. So coffee culture is my last position because I had before my prior career in the wellness field. That was 15 years career. So I entered the company after 15 years of, small entrepreneur and consultant. And I was interviewed, of course, because we have very strict rules on who can enter the company. And I did because my father tricked me. So I need to tell you about this later. Why did I enter Illycaffè? And I will tell you this interesting thing about my father and how he tricked me, my grandfather, because no one pushed me. My dad did teach me this great lesson in life, which is don't ever uh, regret doing rather than no, never regret of have not done. It's better that you do and regret having done this.
Yeah.
And the other thing is do something that makes you really passionate and makes you wake up and be happy in the morning. So it's almost not a work because you love it so much that you're very happy with that. So that is what I did. I mean, I was not pushed after university to the family. Everyone was very okay with me going into physical education, and then I'll tell you other things. But going back to the question, this is one of, I think, my last position in Illy. It's and I come from a CEO experience where I really saw everything in general management because we have a company in Milan called Mitaka, and we produce for offices, only for offices. We roast incredibly so, and we roast. We used to not roast anywhere else if not Trieste. So I had the big luck to see everything from roasting and have to look after everything I saw. I mean, that was a big responsibility, and I had to make a kind of a due diligence and understand what was going on, because we used to have 85% of the stakes. We bought the rest, and then we had a major marketing change, and now it's flying the way the strategies following the Illy strategy. And now in this role, I mean, I think it's a beautiful role because it touches every part of the businesses, and it's very cross-cultural. So it's very across. It's not vertical. And I'm working with Moreno Faina, which is the director of the Università del Caffè, who is a very cultured person, extremely technical and in love with coffee, and he's very brilliant. And when I entered, actually, he was one of my teachers, and we work very well together. And then there's a big team of almost 30 people who are the people who teach. And I think it's a great place to be because there's never one day when I do not learn. This is the magic about Illy, because coffee is very alive. Coffee is continuously alive. In every process, in every stage, from the plant to cup, it is alive, and even after the cup and with the cup, because how is the atmosphere? What is it? Where are you drinking it? Who are you with? And so many things that surround, because it has become an experience. It's a ritual, especially for us in Italy. What I know that I have been very influenced on is I have the luck to do a big job rotation, and every time I stayed enough time to have a track record and fill in my objectives. And it's been a very useful, very interesting path of life. So now it's 12 years that I'm in Illy, maybe 13, 12 or 13. And in this role, I am at service, of course, of retail and B2C, and we do a lot of training with our people. But my role is to have the strategic projects and being an ambassador for coffee culture. And I talk about coffee culture, family business, and women empowerment and DAI, actually. So I feel very lucky to represent this because it is kind of an inheritance. And I think this is what he imagined, my grandfather, when he said, why don't you come and help us? Because, fitness, wellness, and coffee are so tied to each other, because there are plenty of studies that tell us that the coffee is good for your health and that it makes you live longer. And, you know, not studies with 5 people, like a cat, a dog, and then my cousin, and big meta studies with
Yes.
huge populations and lots of years, many years of. So, and that's where he tricked me, because when he said that, I said, "Ay, ay, ay, ay." And then he said, because I was into my second degree in science of nutrition, and I never went to Trieste. My friends, my family and friends were in Emilia Romagna at the time. So exactly across the Adriatic Sea from Trieste. So from where I lived, it was totally northeast was Trieste. And that's where I learned to surf, actually, because we had the wind from Trieste, which only blows from the terra, from the land towards the sea. So you can't surf those waves. Instead, close to Rimini, they do curl a little bit. So we did it. Yeah. 1 meter, 1.5 meters. Sorry, I'm so passionate about surfing. So that came into my mind. And
it's absolutely great to listen to you.
Yes, just the learning. It's fascinating to so no, do carry on. So.
I'm talking too much. I told you needed to bring pillows. So that's where he tricked me, because when he asked me, I was into science of nutrition, and he said, "So what are you doing your thesis on?" And I said, I don't know. Let me pass chemistry, which is really tough here. Because in the end, I had to do 3 theses, because we had physical education. I don't know how we call it in English. I always forget. When
Kinesiology, I think.
No.
Kinesiology.
No, it's sport. It's PE.
Sport, yes.
No, right. But it used to be a diploma and not a university degree. How do we call that? Is that graduate, bachelor's? What is that? I always get confused.
It's a bachelor. Yeah, it's a bachelor.
Bachelor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bachelor.
So that it used to be a diploma. It was not a bachelor yet. So when I was finishing my 3rd year, because I did very fast, I did very well, I started teaching in Urbino University. And then we had the luck, I had the luck that when I finished that, they did 1 year, only 1 year, to have the official bachelor, so the laurea, in Scienze Motorie. It used to be physical education, it became motor sciences with much more scientific classes and subjects and less movement. And so I started teaching right away on the 1st year while they were coming in, the 1st year of the new motor sciences. And then I was, I think when I was teaching there, I did this, I imported personal training from America, where I studied a lot. And that's where I found my business partner, which then was also a partner, actually. And we worked for 6 years. The personal training system is still there, thank God. And he didn't want to study, actually, this guy. Nicola did not want to study at all. I had to kill him to take an exam. So we both took the science and nutrition degree together, or another bachelor, but it came from the microbiology department. So it was very different from us. And this happened when there's a thing in the middle. So after finishing the degrees, I started up the company, and then we decided to franchise to Milan and to Rome and see how this could be moving on. So in the meantime, I was teaching at university, staying a little bit in the studio, consulting every weekend, and things went really well. I published my book called Personal Training System, Self-Entrepreneurship. And I imported this, and it's it became kind of a coaching and a figure that then is very popular now, of course, in Italy. And adding the science to it gave us the chance to become better coaches as far as nutrition goes. So he was working, and what happened at one point, I don't know, I participated to a Bocconi MBA, in the sense that I took the exams, And then the director of the course, he calls me and he says, Daria, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? Because I think my dad, since he did not have a degree officially, he always wanted to take this MBA. So he was pushing on me to go to this MBA, but I was 22. So this president tells me, I have a big problem. I said, what's the problem? Well, actually, you passed the test. And I said, okay. Everyone is going to think that we took you because of your last name. And he said, bro, it's all my life that everyone thinks about my last name. And you know what? If it's not my last name, it's something else. So don't worry about it. And he said, yes, but your fellows are in their 40s, the general managers. I said, so? And we became such a group. We had so much fun. And I passed I mean, I could have gone on, but when we got to finance, I got so bored. And I got terribly bored. And I said, I gotta go back to science because this is not my field. It was not my field at all. And everybody was desperate, of course, about this. I think I recuperated quite a lot later because of so many courses and trainings I took, and the last general management program, I think, yeah, they gave me enough finance for the rest of my life, and now I'm redoing it again. So it's okay. And that's where I went to science of nutrition with Nicola. So he did also, we had the degree in that. And then the man who never wanted to study, he took a fourth one. Because to be a nutritionist in Italy, you need to do biology. So he took biology with 2 kids, a wife who unfortunately passed last week, very young. And so I said, are you going to take another degree now? If you're going to get distracted, what are you going to do? Oh, no, I'm working. It's fine. Enough for degrees. Okay. So that's a very big satisfaction. And he was my student. That's how I met him. And he told me, Professor, but we like this thing about the studio. If we come for free, can we internship for you? I said, sure, come along. And then he was very well inserted in this place that I chose because I studied demography and the medium salary. And that was exactly the right place to introduce in Italy personal training as a concept, because they're very advanced in Emilia-Romagna. It's close to Rimini. But don't think about Rimini, only umbrellas and stuff. There are places which are also not only about umbrellas and people going around at night eating gelatos. It's a beautiful place.
It is.
Okay. Did I get lost? No, I don't think so.
No. Was very, very interesting. And also you mentioned a couple of times the next generation and the fact that there are principles or rules or whatever. So if you can, would you be happy to share with us how are you planning the entry of the next generation? If you are, planning it or not, and if you are, doing anything to somehow define principles or, how do you see it?
Well, until some time ago, there was this family pact. Do we say pact? This family.
Yes. Family constitution. Sorry.
Constitution.
Patti di famiglia.
Patti, sì. Where it was very much specified which characteristics did you have to have. The fact that you absolutely needed to have a background on your own. You need to speak a certain number of languages, but the thing that the president Daria Illy always says is that compared to others that want that place, included external people, you only get in if you are the best. So this is, I think, very right. Unfortunately, I don't know if this was applied to everybody, but it has been applied to me. But I'm happy it was, actually, because I was the first, of course. Yeah. Then came Ernesto, and now we're gradually introducing my younger cousins. And for example, we're taking now. I did study governance, but they did not. So they're in the governance of the Gruppo Illy. So we're doing together a training on governance with my aunt, because now my aunt, one of the sister of the brothers, the only female, she's a president of the Gruppo Illy and of the foundation. I mean, she's had quite a lot of roles, which means she will travel less. And yeah, I don't know, did I answer? Yes. So these are, let's say, the strict rules that we have are these. And I remember that they asked me last time that we renewed, they asked me, what do you think? It says preferably needs to be to have a degree, and Alfredo, you say this is a bachelor. You need to have bachelor. It's compulsory. And I said, no, because I'd rather have a non-bachelor who's very smart than a bachelor who's a not big. So no, leave it compulsory. I mean, it's not. This does not define you. Personality and being humble and being expert in what you learn is more important than, I think, than having a bachelor's.
Yeah.
I'm quite.
Now, this is very interesting. It's definitely so. You know, one of those family businesses. I would say I would agree, quite rare, where merit seems to be really very much at the center. And this triggered to me one other question, which is this kind of attention that you are paying, therefore, to hire the best ones, to get into the business, the best ones, only in relation to the management position, or also are you paying attention to nurture the next generation of entrepreneurs, and also, to nurture responsible owners? Because of course, not all of the family members will be managers. Plus, in the future, you will be needing also many family entrepreneurs, new generation one. And of course, also being owner is associated with some important, I would say, responsibilities and competencies that should be played, even as an owner. So are you doing something also in that regard, with these two other dimensions?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, for me, it happened. It happened because of the thing I told you about my grandfather, and it was a match. It was a moment, and it clicked. But we really, that's why we have also many different companies. So we are pushing them to learn to be owners and associates and partners rather than being managers inside there, because it's very, very difficult. I had the fortune of being very well accepted and gaining my credibility by doing in the years. And but it's not so easy, and it's not such a good example for the management, because they're always very, unfortunately, prejudices there. So you really need to walk your talk and deserve on the way the respect. And it's not very easy for everyone. I mean, for me, it was quite natural, but I have many other defects, not the one of not being humble, but many other defects. I mean, really, really, really many. So that being said, the family, the third generation is concentrating on us being responsible board people, and they are trying to get us together to be tight, because we never see each other. One is in America, the other is in UK, and then we're not the typical family that stays together at Christmas, though we really have fun together, lots of fun. We enjoy each other very much. And so, yes, now we're working, for example, we're all taking a course on governance, and it was tailor made for us. I did already work on this, but I'm happy to refresh. And so
sorry, is that all of your current generation working on that course of governance?
Yes, all of us, yeah, except Ernesto, who left the company, who decided to do something else. Yeah, he's an architect.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay.
Okay, he's pushing his own vocation, different one, yeah.
Yeah, like his father, the artist who invented the Illy collection cards in '92, and that was such a great idea. He has a tremendous
Francesco.
an incredible sense and taste for arts, which is something that I'm not like that. I mean, it's very hard for me to imagine something in a different way. I'm quite, so I could never be an architect and see what could I do with a space. I am creative on other things.
Okay, no, thank you. Dave, I know when we were talking before, there was an interest. I know you wanted to explore sort of around the foundation and sort of obviously in Daria's role within that. So.
Yeah, could you sort of, with the Family Business Network, actually, we've developed a family business foundation. So it's something, as we're forming and developing that right now, I'm really interested in how did that come about? When was that developed? So the foundation, tell me about the role that you play there.
So I am a voluntary board member for the foundation, and it's what remained as an inheritance of my grandfather. That is why it carries his name, just as a master. The master we have, because we have different types of education. We have short courses, also for coffee lovers. Then we have longer training, like for 3 days, 1 week, and we have 140 seats of the Università Illycaffè in almost 100 countries. Now we are selecting actually the affiliates, because we really want them to be affiliated on the process, the way we teach, the way now we're going hybrid. We're going hybrid, and I studied this so much, and finally this is happening. The team is enthusiastic, but I need to have coherence and consistency all through the network. I mean, so that being said, the Università del Café was born from a dream of my grandfather to have consistency in coffee, because he said, why do we need, I mean, we put so much care in selecting, and we had this idea of having a Premio Brasile, this prize to the better coffee, that it was because Brazil is the first producing country of coffee, but they're also the second consumers. So it's very difficult. It was very difficult at the time in the 80s to get good quality coffee. There was a lot of coffee, but it was not the one we wanted, which is more delicate and fruity and with no defects. That is why our agronomists, this is why education within coffee culture, we teach, we do the onboarding for our internal ambassadors, our people. We work with B2B, meaning, of course, baristas and professionals. And then we have the B2C, so directly to consumers. And everyone is very engaged with, how to make yourselves a cappuccino, how many different types of coffee we have, and the preparations and all the rest. I'm thinking of the questions that I had that I have not responded to, but I will get back to the foundation, I promise. Yeah.
Daria, just on that point, because we mentioned earlier about your grandfather and saying, is his philosophy or the story behind your grandfather, is that written down? And you're saying, well, no, not really, it's not there. But in creating the foundation, then really his memory and his principles, what he stands for and represents, and that pursuit of the best coffee, then that's there within the foundation then, isn't it? So in a way, his memory and that history and everything is brought forward through the foundation, I would think.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a board member there, and I'm a spokesperson for women empowerment. He was very strong on this, and Trieste was one of the most emancipated cities in Italy, because we had the port. After the war, my grandmother was telling me it was the only city in Italy where women could smoke outside. So really, yeah, Trieste was very emancipated, because it's always been kind of a crossroad for very many different cultures. So yes, what we do in the foundation, we research a lot, which is exactly in the name of my grandfather, and we sponsor a few, some students that come to do the master in coffee and economy and science and economy of coffee. So it's called Ernesto Illy Master in Science and Economy and Science. I always forget that. Anyway, and I teach there, so it's a very complete master, and we have people coming from all the different parts of the world who are producing mostly. Last year we had also curious people, who had cafes and probably said, "Oh, this is interesting, I'll go." And we do sponsor part of that kind of higher culture thing. In the region we work together with other universities to build this very interesting master, which is very unique because there's not anything similar in the world, and this stays within the foundation actually. And then a lot of projects to help the culture move on. So for an example, we build schools for the third world countries. We work in education. If you think about it, there are three main words which are the most researched now. So one is or was COVID-19, the second is learning, and the third is diversity. So it's a moment when this is so high and there is such a big market and job opportunities on this, because I can't see anything else on LinkedIn. And I'm glad this is so finally discovered, because in Italy it's very difficult to talk about diversity, meaning racial and culture, the color of your eyes, your skin. It's kind of it's not so easy. That's why I thank the fact of being a globetrotter, a citizen of the world. I carry my home on my back like a little snail. As far as my kids are with me, it's fine.
That's a lovely line. That I'm gonna remember that one. So it's and you talk then about empowering women, but also that next generation. So how would you like to, if you had the whole say on how would you like to empower the next generation of coffee makers?
Well, I would encourage them to be bold, because it's very difficult if you want to trace what the previous generation did. You cannot be obsessed with that. Mm-hmm. I mean, younger generations now are really crucial. Like we read on the 10 timers companies. No, we say that we should have a under 30 every 5 people, and I think it would really make the company great. Mm-hmm. And I think the way they reason, I mean, I think I am a late millennial, actually. Let's not say too much. But, we need to talk about the Z, and all the rest. We need to intercept with marketing, that kind of thing. And it's good to hear them. I think the next generations in the coffee industry, they need to make very sharp choices and know what they want to do. Because when you have a clear strategy and you know where you're going, then the execution can be very lean. But you must be bold and not try to copy what happened before. And do not look around you to do what someone else is doing. Because if you're moving very fast through a tunnel and you look around, you're going to bump. So you need to be fast on your trail and courageous, I believe. And I mean, all those ethical principles about sustainability and being humble, you see it like people dress now when they go to work. I went to Amazon because I did the first, I was into business development too. I cannot tell you how many roles I had, but I went into business development, and I was working on single dose, and we developed the Keurig partnership and machines too. So I became a little technician. And I was desperate at the beginning because I went from sales, traveling all over the world, working with the best hotel chains and opening new streams in the travel industry, premium travel industry. And then I found myself in meetings all day, talking about tubes and the cans and the tests and crash tests. And then I got really passionate. So we threw out like 4 machines that year, one of which I worked directly with our president. who's very passionate and as an innovator, and it's still the best selling machine, and it has the lowest call rate. So we're super happy about that baby. I call them the babies. Every time I went home with a prototype to test them, I said the kids, I have a new baby. And I still have one of the babies actually made in Spain. So she was not a prototype. She's very serious. So why did I say this? I remember I went to Amazon while they were incubating Alexa, and I wanted to make the first connected machine, not to really make something huge, because being that it's not a Euro machine with beans where she would work on her own, and you can ask her, give me a long coffee, give me an Americano, give me a cappuccino, give me a small cappuccino, give me a medium, give me a latte. We use espresso, so we have capsules, and you need to do your hands either to put it in. So it cannot be the robots that there are in the lines, So, but it did have a wake up call. It did memorize your recipes and all that. But it was my way to be a pioneer in connectivity. And when I was there, because what I wanted to say is, I think we see the fact that being humble and being understated and being very sustainability oriented, which is great, because finally someone is facing the fact that climate change is happening, and they are facing it, whilst most of the elder population, they're not facing it. And there are at least 5 reasons why they're not facing it, but maybe we can talk later about black swans and green swans. And where I was telling you that these I give for granted. When I went to Amazon, I saw these wonderful people going in with their dogs and with the hats, and everyone wore sneakers. And I said, I wish I could go like that in my company instead of, being in suits and all the rest. Why can I not do it? I said, I'm there since 5 years now. I'm an executive. So I started wearing sneakers at one point. But I guess everyone did. So this informality, I think, is kind of a reflection of how this generation is. I mean, it's digital, it's sustainable, it's thoughtful, and they're mostly humble. The fact is that probably the growth rate of birth will be definitely cut down, right? So that being said, why did I say this? Because what was in the beginning of your answer question, Dave, was
about how would you like to empower the next gen? What would be your advice? And you said they be daring, they should be brave, courageous. They should dare to be courageous. Yes,
bold, yeah. Bold. And not look around.
That's right. Yes.
Especially, we need to remember that the first thing is, think of your USP. We go back to the first genius of marketing, and the USP. Unique selling proposition must be there, must be very, very clear, because that's where you want to hang on to. And every good idea, and it's him again, I think it's Kotler, every new idea attracts competition, right? So you gotta protect that. You gotta be unique,
especially if it's a good one. Yes,
exactly.
It's a good idea.
Every good idea attracts, competition.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. So I sort of to round off really, because I know we've gone through some of our questions. It's these we could keep talking and talking. But Dave, have you got a final question? And I'll obviously come to Alfredo as well. So after Dave. So.
I'm going to take you back to the very beginning of this about your first memory again. So just taking this right away, because you've clearly had such the job roles, the experiences, everything. You've really lived a life through the family and before being in the family business. But if you took it right back, and what's the first memory about being part of the Illy family and knowing what you were part of?
So the very, very first, in 3rd grade, I had this friend of mine. His name is Alberto, and he used to be a roaster too. His coffee name was Amigos, and we were Illy, like the super old logo. the last one, James Rosenquist, did like that, and I mean it's wonderful. And they, you know, and I liked this boy, and in fact we did become fiancés later on in high school, and he was blonde like me, and they put us together, and they put these 2 packs of coffee. They put amigos and they put Illy, and then he's trying to kiss me on the cheek, and I stay like that, you know, on the school pictures. How do you call that? The school. Yeah. I do like that, and I'm going to send you that picture because I think he has it on his Facebook, and the headline says, "Could this be the beginning of Illycaffè?" And then I said, well, if this is so interesting to Mrs. Bentamini, who's my second grade teacher, and now she's being the science teacher of my kids, I said, I think this coffee thing is quite important. But then my first sensory, something that really gives me an emotion, many times emotions come from a perfume or a smell or a place. And I'm not very chinese. Yeah, I do. I mean, I smell a lot, and I'm a taster, by the way. And I really like taking in pieces and splitting down all the components of the blend and destructuring. It's when I opened the cupboard of my home. My father was never there because he was doing export, so he was traveling, and it was a big moment for Illy. It's when he quadruplicated the revenues, and that's when we really went up and up. And when I smelled the coffee roast smell in the cupboard, it meant that my dad was home.
Okay.
Okay.
Because his suit was there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, I found letters asking him, why are you always reading the newspapers when you're home? Because I never see you, and now you read the newspapers. Yeah, anyway, that is one thing. And now in my new office, I am exactly in front of a place where I get all the smell of coffee, a lot of coffee scents, and I love it. I can't wait to go back. And now when I come home, I hear that I smell the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. It's a strong emotion and connection. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And Alfredo, have you a final question at this stage?
Yes, thanks.
Oh God,
Daria, you
no.
have been really,
No,
no, it will be an easy one. I mean,
kidding,
you know,
no.
you have been really conveying to us a lots of positive energies, passion. I mean, things that is clearly, you know, I mean, I could really see this in your words and in your narrative, I would say. Now, I would like to ask, what do you consider the #1 challenge associated with being an executive in a family business? What was the most challenging thing for you?
So for me, things changed a lot when I was already an executive, but I joined the board because I had real friends. I still have real friends, which I mean, I spent 80% of the day with these guys. At the point that one time we were to dinner, and there were, of course, 4 men and me, and the guy of the restaurant who was a friend, he said, well, you're the only girl. And in chorus, they said, no, she's the only man. I said, okay, all right, which was a compliment in their way. And you know, that is when things started to change because I have to wear different hats in different situations. But I read Edward de Bono, so I'm good with hats. I'm good at hats. But not always people out there are good at hats. So this is one of the major issues because I can distinguish a moment when I report to a CEO, internal or external, but then when I am an administrator, I am totally unbiased. I might be formally non-independent because I carry the name, but I'm spiritually extremely independent and a ball breaker. Not because I want to be, you know, I want to be so. It's because my job there is to protect the family, the people who are working for us, all the families that we are given a job to in the countries, and give a future confidence, of sustainability, and of ethics. So that is why I am like this. Not everybody likes this.
So being capable of wearing these multiple hats.
Exactly.
And, yes.
And not have the consequences of this. So
sure.
I think I was smart because I talked immediately about this, and I said, listen, we can make a history, because if we get along and we're able to change our hats every time, it's going to be great. And I don't know if I'm pretty critical about myself. The next article I'm going to write, because I'm a freelance, I'm a come si dice giornalista pubblicista, not professional, but
not professional, but yeah, I would say, non-professional journalist. I mean, one of those who work as freelance.
Freelance author,
newspapers. Yes. Yeah, freelance journalist, I would say. Yeah.
Certified. So I'm going to write about perfectionism, because this is my real problem, is perfectionism. I don't know if it's a slavery. Last interview I had with a beautiful friend from Wall Street, he said, oh, it's great to have perfectionist people like you. Yeah, I had 1 hour delay because I didn't have the sound. I didn't have the connectivity. Everything happened. And I said, yes, it's on your life, but okay, if you think so. And I did, okay. So yeah, I think this is the major thing, Alfredo. That's the major challenge. And the problem is that others live you as a challenge if you walk your talk. And if you have studied, and if you prepare yourself on all aspects of governance, and you like your job, it's kind of more of a discrimination than a positive thing. I had one of my bosses in my 12 years. I was not executive yet. I was outstanding on my results. I brought more results than my MBOs said in numbers. But he told me, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to give you the overachievement because someone might think you're Illy. I said, come on, I'm here since 5 years, and you told me this. I remember I went to church for one of the first times. I mean, I like churches, but there was this guy, the priest where I lived in Trieste, in the small city called Duino. And I really talked about him. I need to ask you. He's a lovely man, and he's so wise. And he told me, you know what? This is called discrimination. So yeah, that's a point where we need to be very careful.
Yeah, no. Okay, well, Daria, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I feel there's
so
much more to explore, and certainly down different topics or different areas. And I've written a couple of notes myself on some headings that I would love to come back to you about and explore. So I'm just going to stop the recording of today's interview.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. You have excellent questions.